Do you consider your air fryer an essential travel companion? I do. We'll talk about that and some other things related to the nomad carnivore lifestyle over the next few minutes. I'm Vic, the Nomad Carnivore. Thanks for taking some time to listen to me. What we're doing today is talking a little bit about being a nomad carnivore, but doing it domestically. I truly enjoy international travel. I've done a fair share of it. We're planning to do a heck of a lot more in the months and years to come. But I've also traveled a lot domestically. My job at one time had me on the road 40 plus weeks a year. I've been literally, whether for work or pleasure, I've been in every one of the 50 states and the District of Columbia. And I have had to learn how to eat on the road, how to follow whatever diet I was following at that time. And so for most of that time I wasn't on the carnivore diet, following the carnivore lifestyle, but have had a good deal of experience navigating restaurants and asking for the things I want. And I've been able to employ that for the last years. I've been following the carnivore lifestyle. And that is, I think, the biggest thing I can say is that you really have to speak up. You don't want to compromise, meaning you don't want to be difficult, but I don't know that if you just wanted to go along, whether it makes sense to eat the breaded chicken or whatever it is that might be on that plate, just because it's there and because you don't want to say anything. I think you say it. You can say things in a nice way. I never try to make any restaurant person upset or make them have reason to wish I wasn't their customer. But I ask in a nice way, and if I need to, I tell them that I'm following a special diet. The way I usually phrase that, and you can hear some of the noise behind us here, so forgive me for that. But what I normally say is, I say, I just want to let you know I'm following that crazy carnivore diet thing. I'm just eating meat. And I kind of make it almost like it's a joke. And I say, I'm following that crazy carnivore diet thing, so I'm just eating meat, and I don't have any of the different oils and things. So, and if, for example, if I'm trying to order breakfast, I say, do you think it'd be possible? I mean, do you think the chef could cook some eggs in butter? Not the oil, could they do it in butter for me? And occasionally the answer is, no, I'm sorry, they can't do that. Because sometimes they don't even, do you know that some of these places don't even have real butter? I know that sounds incredible, but some places don't have it. But typically if a place does have some real butter, they're happy to do that. Or at least, here's the thing, at least tell you they're doing it. So you want to be a little careful though too. It's one thing for them to do it, or say they're going to do it, it's another thing for them to do it. So you do have to be a little trusting. Sometimes that trust may not be well placed, so you have to recognize that, but no harm in asking. And additionally, I always find that if they can't do it in butter, I at least ask. Now here's the thing, if it's a place where they can't cook it in butter, the good chance it's not the kind of place where you're going to get a boiled egg or a poached egg. But again, you can ask, can I get some eggs poached? Can I get some boiled eggs? And if they can't accommodate that, well then you're pretty much limited. Now, if I was really hungry, even though I'm kind of disappointed that they don't seem to be too accommodating, I might order some bacon, I might order an order of ham and enjoy that, or frankly, maybe go somewhere else. And I've done that many times. I do it nicely. I don't slam the menu down in disgust. I simply say, oh, it sounds like I may have a hard time finding something I can eat, but I thank you for at least helping me out. And then I go. So you have to be willing to stand up for what you want to do. Now you can do that, once again, without being a pest. No one likes a pest. But if you do it and you do it in a nice way, then I think you'll be okay. And if I go out to dinner with friends, family, again, you don't want to be the pest. I'm sure you've been to dinner, I have, where there's always that person who makes a big production out of their special dietary requirements. I've rolled my eyes. Maybe you've done the same thing. I certainly don't want to end up being that person. But here's the thing, the carnivore diet is super easy. Super easy. So other than you maybe doing what I do occasionally, which is try to specify cooking in butter, other than that, which is about as much of a pest as I become, it's really all about, yeah, could I get the steak, please? And I really either and I ask people, I said, look, I'm not going to eat the sides, any of the sides you like. They have a baked potato, they have the French fries, they have the coleslaw, anything anybody here wants, because I'll order that and you can have it. And if no, but if I'm alone, don't even bring it, right? And so it's real easy. Yeah, I just want the steak, you know, whatever temperature you like it. I just want the steak, none of the other stuff. Please don't put any sauce on it, and I'm good to go. That's all I really need. And how easy is that? See, no one can really object to that. If they don't have steak, you can always say, look, and here's a good one for you. Here's a little tip for you. Maybe they have a nice burger on the thing, and it says, you know, half-pound burger. Well, yeah, a half-pound burger with the bun and everything else. I mean, if you're eating that stuff, which you shouldn't be, right? But if you're eating that stuff, I guess that's a fairly substantial meal. But you take that patty off of that big hamburger, and that may not be a lot, right? So I always ask, I said, can I get that as a double, and could you let me know what that upcharge would be to be a double burger? And if they come back and say, oh, it's, you know, whatever dollars more, and if it's reasonable, I'll say, well, how about let's make it a triple then? And then you have that, and you can eat that, and that's substantial enough. So never have any trouble there. I tell them, save everything else. Don't even have to bring me the bun. You don't have to bring any of that stuff. Just bring the patties. No sauces. Just bring the patties. I'm good to go. And once in a while, they'll still have the bun on the side, or they'll have the patty sitting on a nest of lettuce, or, you know, it's hard for them just to leave well enough alone. But you'd be surprised, you can get pretty much what you want. And I've never really had a big difficulty doing that. And here's the last thing I'll say about that. Maybe not the last, but something I'll say about it now. And that is it going to really kill you to miss a meal? Or to go hungry a little while? Or at least wait until you get somewhere else? You see, one thing I really love about eating carnivore is that when you've eaten in that day especially, I don't know how super hungry you get later. So let's say you've had a really decent breakfast. Most people, even though they might eat a second or third meal typically in a day, push comes to shove, for most of us, we're really not starving, even by the end of the day. Yeah, we could eat, and sometimes we do. But it's not like that situation, you know, when people are eating carbs, and sometimes you really get hungry. I mean, you really get starving. Now, I'll say, if I haven't eaten in a long time, maybe in the next day, and it's getting to be time for me to have my meal, my first meal of the day, and sometimes the only meal of the day, yeah, I can get to where I really am looking forward to it and eating, and really feel some hunger. But once that's done, I mean, for that rest of that day, and I think you probably would agree with this if you've been doing the carnivore lifestyle, you really don't have that. You don't have that all-consuming need to devour something. I don't know how long you've been doing carnivore, or whether you're just thinking about it. But I've been doing it for a year now, and I remember very easily times when you go into the restaurant and there's the basket of bread that they're bringing, or there's something else, and I mean, you just grab at it. You're hungry. And it's so great not to feel that way. Not to feel that way. I think that is uncomfortable for people you're dining with sometimes, because how many times they say, anybody want some appetizers? And listen, anyone can eat anything in front of me. It doesn't bother me in the least. You can have a 6-layer cake. You can have French fries. You can have, you name it. You want to eat it in front of me, it doesn't faze me. But for some reason, if they know you're not going to partake of the potato skins, or the loaded tots, or the nachos and whatever, if they know you're not going to be digging into that, I think the way they act, it kind of spoils it for them. And I'm trying to put myself in those shoes and remember how it felt if maybe they weren't on the carnivore diet, but maybe they were just, who knows, they were super vegetarian and they didn't want to have it because everything in that restaurant, all the different things had some element of meat, or they weren't sure it wasn't meat in some way, so they didn't want to have it. And I know that to some degree maybe you felt, gee, I just want this person to have a good time. I just want them to enjoy themselves. I wish they could. So I get that, and I think that comes from a good place. I think that they care about you. They want you to be a part of things. They want you to partake. But I tell people, and I do, I said, man, get whatever you like. I want you to enjoy it, I said. But for me, I'm okay. I'm good, because I'm going to... And I've actually, and this may, for some of you, is not something you would do. But often when they bring the bread, they've got those butter chips and things. I mean, I might just take one of those, especially if they're like wrapped or something. I'll take one, I'll unwrap it, and I'll just take my knife and I'll take a little piece of it. And honestly, I enjoy that. I enjoy that. I know some of you don't eat any dairy, even butter, but that could be another way to kind of look like you're doing something and take the edge off. Now, for me, I have no problem taking the whole thing and just putting it in my mouth, but most people don't eat butter that way, so you don't want to freak them out. So cut a little piece, take it, and enjoy that, and maybe that's okay. And for those of you who do eat cheese, I'm not trying to teach you bad habits. I don't really eat cheese hardly ever. But if you're like in an Italian place and it's real Parmesan, be careful. You don't want some stuff that's got all kinds of additives that's not going to be what you want. But if you're in a place with some real Parmesan or other legitimate cheese, maybe take that butter and sprinkle that on it and eat that a little bit. That's pretty tasty too. So just some things to think about. I know that for me, being on the road, not having a home base at the moment, every place is a new experience. And so my best friend on the road, and I can't do this if I travel in an airplane, but we're traveling by car at the moment. So my best friend has become my air fryer. And I take that with me. And now you got to be careful because they can often make a lot of smell and it can be an issue like that. But I take it with me and I'm trying to be respectful. I don't want to be a nuisance to anybody or create issues. But I have the air fryer, and I have found, and this is a little technique, you might want to try this. If you've ever been in a hotel room, and I have at least on one occasion, I won't say any more than one, but one occasion, it did trip the smoke alarm. Well, you don't want that to happen, right? That makes a lot of noise, and you're in a hotel, and the last thing you want to do is have somebody yell at you. So what I found works pretty effectively. If you are traveling with an air fryer, and you want to not make your room stink, and you want to be able to use that and enjoy it and not be a nuisance, what I found is if I use it in the bathroom, so you plug it on the counter there, and while it's running, you run the shower. And I run, doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be hot water, just run the shower. And I find that sometimes the mist of the shower does tend to trap a lot of those odors, and you can do that, and it's an amazing difference. So, not trying to teach anybody bad habits or get anybody in trouble. You do this at your own risk, but that has worked for us. And so once again, traveling with the air fryer, I'm able to cook the steaks, hamburger, bacon, if you're eating bacon, I do. You can even make eggs in the air fryer. You take your whole eggs and you can put them there on your rack and cook them for a few minutes, and essentially like a softer hard-boiled egg. And I would much prefer, and I say this all the time, I much prefer eating my own food than what I'm even going to get in a restaurant. I think a part of that has to do that I seem to be somewhat sensitive to the seasonings. See, I don't add any seasoning. I've even stopped using added salt. I get salt, I'm sure, enough in some of the butter that I do use, and the foods naturally have some salt. But I stopped adding salt either before cooking or after cooking. And I thought that would be super difficult, especially with the eggs. A lot of people just say, oh, I could never eat eggs without salt, or I could never eat this without salt, or a steak without salt, or a hamburger without salt. But I've gotten used to it pretty quickly. But other seasonings, I must be pretty sensitive to it, because eating carnivore, I never get indigestion. I never get that anything like oh, you know, like you feel how it's coming back up or something. Never get that. But if something I've eaten is seasoned, now if it's super seasoned and I can really smell it, and I'm probably not going to eat it. But almost any restaurant, even if you tell them not to do it, I don't think those chefs can resist it. They have to kind of hit it with something. So if it's not too severe, I will go ahead and eat that. That's the compromise you make when you're out and about. That's why I prefer my own cooking, even in an air fryer. But I would say, take stock of yourself. If you're eating carnivore and you're getting maybe a little of the indigestion or some of the acid reflux or any of the things you normally don't get. I don't like to talk about too many of the body things, but one of the pluses of carnivore is that it either greatly reduces or frankly eliminates flatulence, gas, right? I mean, that's one of the amazing things about carnivore. And frankly, sometimes I think if you're still experiencing some of that, you might just very well trace that to some of the seasonings. And seasonings, by the way, you can read anything. I mean, you can go get a bottle of lemon pepper. And I've always been an ingredient reader. Even long before carnivore, I've always been an ingredient. I want to know what's in it. And sometimes something will sound good. Now, I don't eat lemon pepper, but in a far gone time when that would have been something I might consider, it may have sounded good to me. Wow, that sounds pretty good. You know, especially maybe sprinkle that on some chicken, some lemony, peppery taste. That might be great. And then you read the label, and you wonder, and you realize and wonder why the lemon pepper has to have sugar in it, has to have dextrose, has to have this, has to have that, and that whole thing looks like a chemistry experiment. And all it needed to be was maybe some dried, grated lemon rind and some crushed black pepper. And probably been tastier and obviously I think a lot better for you than all those other things. So be careful about the seasonings is what I'm saying. I prefer not to go anywhere near them. I don't need them. I don't think they agree with me. And if you are having some of those persistent issues, that very well could be why. So maybe give yourself a test. Try swearing off the seasonings for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, and see if you don't feel a bit better. And if there's no change, or maybe you felt better before and you felt even the same now and nothing's changed, well then maybe they're not a problem for you. See, everybody's a little bit different. I think we're more alike than we say. I don't think we're so different that some people need to be vegetarian and some people need to be carnivore. I don't think we're that different. I'm always interested in the analogy that, when you go and you see the sheep in the field, there's not one that's eating grass and one having something else and something having somebody else, because after all, we have to eat what's right for us. The sheep don't worry about what's right for that particular sheep. They know what the sheep diet is. And I think it's somewhat the same for the human diet. That said, there could be some small variations. A lot of it has to do with ancestry, what part of the world somebody's ancestors grew up in, tolerances that they developed or don't have. So there could be some very slight variation. So therefore, like I said, maybe try to see whether that is a trigger for you. So that's about it for now. I know that is just covering a lot of the ground that maybe we all think about. I know the next stop for us, we're talking about going to Savannah, Georgia from here, and then just a couple of months still in the United States, probably going to spend a bit more time in the Chicago area. Got a wedding to attend in May, but then the plan is to do the Camino de Santiago. Now that's a pilgrimage walk, and you don't have to be Catholic to do the Camino de Santiago. In fact, they have people from all faiths, all parts of the world that'll do this. This is a walk that has been, and there are many paths, there are different paths, but this has been something people have been doing since the Middle Ages, I guess, or possibly, right around, I think that I read somewhere in the 800s, maybe is when that started, but I'd have to double check that. But it's been a long time that people have been making this pilgrimage to a particular church, and it can be a very exciting and grueling walk, and also very rewarding. We are trying to determine what path to take, because there are different ways that people do go, different caminos that all terminate in the same place. So we were talking about doing what they call the French way, which in one form is about a 500-mile walk. That's a lot. And we were going to try to take enough time to where we could do that. I think what we've determined, though, is that unless something changes, we probably don't have enough time to do the entire 500 miles. So there's another route, and this one is, I think, a little more maybe spectacular in a way. It's a little tougher, I think, but it's a little more spectacular. The one that we're looking at right now, they call that the Primitivo. So we're thinking about that, and so we are planning to do some form of the Camino de Santiago this year. It is the Jubilee year, so that could mean it's going to be more crowded. We just don't know. But that's something that we're excited about, and I'm very excited to bring all of that to you. The walk, the planning, all of it, and also showing you how to stay carnivore doing it. Now, I'm going to show you that, but I'm going to be figuring that out along the way. That's not something I already know how to do, but I'm telling you I'm going to do it. And I'll be happy to share every little nuance with you. I have had an opportunity to be carnivore on an extended overseas vacation. I didn't find it difficult at all. Being on a pilgrimage where you're walking every single day, miles and miles, and there could be what you're looking for at places few and far between, that may be more of a challenge, but we're up for that. I'm up for that, and I do want to bring that all to you. So thank you for taking a few minutes to spend with me. I am Vic, the Nomad Carnivore. Until the next time, have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye, and good luck.